Hello travelers, Boardman21 here, and today's build is going to be the Sparkinator. We are going to be doing Spark Novas, Spark Charges, and we're going to have enough lightning damage to boot. It's not going to be too much different than the previous Mage build I did, where you're running around with Teleport and using Elemental Nova to apply Spark Charges. But we will have Static Orb, and Static Orb is going to be your rare and boss killer. It's going to take down anything with high health in a matter of seconds. So what it does is it's going to be fired, it's going to double cast, it's going to give you lightning aegis, and then on the ground, as you can see, it's going to create Spark Novas, which are just these little, basically mini lightning novas that are going to apply shock and apply your ailments and apply whatever you have, and it's going to do a lot of them over the course of a couple of seconds per static orb that you've had explode. So when you do a bunch of cast all at once, it just creates a whole show of sparks going off, and that is why we call it the Sparkinator. This build is capable of doing all of the content in the game and pushing over 100 waves in the arena. You can push higher with more skill. I did not take the time to go any higher than that, as it proved that it is definitely viable. And by doing all content, I mean you can basically face tank or take on all the bosses in the game with ease. Alright, let's get into the skills. For skills, I'm running a Focus, Elemental Nova, Teleport, Flame Ward, and Static Orb. For Focus, I have 4 points in Mana Flooded, 1 point in Desperate Meditation, 4 points in Revelation, 1 point in Energy Infusion, 2 points in Mind Shell, 2 points in Everward, and 5 points in Prison Barrier. Basically, you just want to get mana back as fast as possible with it. Having haste afterwards is always good, and while in it, having resistance is good since we're not stacking any resistance on gear. Having 35% of all resistances while channeling it will help with your survivability if you do need to stand still and take a couple of hits. For Elemental Nova, we are using this to apply as big an area of hits of Nova as possible, as Nova will be procced through Teleport, and that's the only way that we're going to be using it. You can cast it manually if you want, however, I'm not a huge fan of that in this build. I like just being able to teleport and use Static Orb as my main DPS skill. We do want the Spark Charges with it, so we have 1 point in Lightning Nova, 5 points in Spark Charges, 2 points in Overcharge, 5 points in Elemental Expanse, and 3 points in Charged Destruction, with our final 4 points all in Arcane Elementorium. For Teleport, we're using this to proc our decoys and to proc Elemental Novas. It also has knockback on hit. We have 1 point in Unstable Arrival and 3 points in Intense Arrival, 4 points in Resonant Plasma, 1 point in Unexpected Copy, 1 point Uncontrolled Duplication, 1 point in Stable Duplicants, and 1 point in Decoy Position, 5 points in Elemental Affinity, 1 point in Elemental Dawn, 1 point in Elemental Dusk, and 1 point in Elemental Midnight. This will give you the 3 cast of Elemental Nova from your arrival, mid, and departure locations. For Flame Ward, we're using this to get as much ward as possible, along with damage reduction and some extra lightning damage. We have 3 points in Dilation, 4 points in Infusion, 1 point in Lightning Ward, 4 points in Star Ward Defense, 3 points in Desperate Defense, and 5 points in Barrier. And for Static Orb, your main DPS skill, we have 2 points in Lightning Aegis, so that you'll have a 40% chance to gain Lightning Aegis on cast. You'll also be double casting, so you technically have an 80% chance every time you use the skill in order to get Lightning Aegis, which means while casting the skill, you're pretty much guaranteed to have it. There are also idols that give you additional lightning damage while having Lightning Aegis active, so it's a really big plus to have this. You'll take less damage, you'll do more damage. It's great to have. These 2 points are highly recommended. 1 point in Controlled Explosion, 1 point in Charged Ground. This charged ground is what leaves the static novas, so when the explosion happens, it leaves a little area of effect where spark novas will start applying for the next few seconds, and there's about 10 of them that go off per explosion. 4 points in mana ground to reduce the cost, seeing as charged ground made the mana cost go up 300%, which is a huge amount. We reduced that back down by 140%. 1 point in Shocking Orb, 3 points in Static Bolts, 1 point in Relinquish, and 7 points in Twinned Orbs for the double cast chance, so that you will almost always double cast. There's only a 2% chance that you won't. For passives, we have 31 points in the Mage base class, with 8 points in Scholar, 8 points in Arcanist, 5 points in Mage Flurry, and 10 points in Knowledge of Destruction. 82 points in the Mastered Sorcery class, with 8 points in Calculated Destruction, 8 points in Brainstorm, 4 points in Mana Shell, 10 points in Wisdom, 8 points in Mancer, 8 points in Crackling Precision, 5 points in Distant Spark, 5 points in Arcane Obliteration, 10 points in Arcane Insight, 5 points in Spell Slinger, 1 point in Elemental Ascendance, 5 points in Arcane Current, and 5 points in Archmage. For items and idols, you want any idols that have increased lightning damage while you have lightning aegis. Also, increased lightning damage that's doubled if you're over 300 mana, since you can get 300 mana pretty easy with the build, is also recommended. You don't have to have both of them on the same idol, it is possible, but getting one or the other, they both give a maximum of 100%. Now you will obviously have the over 300 mana max mana at all times, whereas lightning aegis will only be within the last 8 seconds of casting Static Orb, which is almost 100% of the time. It can be if you micromanage it to a point where you have 100% uptime, but definitely try and get both of them or as much of each as you can. For items, we're wearing 2 uniques. We have Exanguous and we have Last Steps of the Living. This is why we're running a low life build with as much ward as possible. And then for items, to prove that these builds are viable without having to do massive gearing, these are items that we crafted from just common items. We went until either they broke or it got to a point where I didn't want to risk damaging them. Nothing here is above tier 10. That's right, this entire build is capable of beating the entire game with tier 10 and under. So for our wand, we have a tier 9. We have Spell Critical Strike Chance, Critical Strike Multiplier, Mana Shock on Chance. For our ring, we have a tier 9 with Intelligence, Vite, Health, Dodge rating. For our gloves, we have a tier 8. We have Cast Speed, Int, Health, and Hybrid Health. For the relic, we have Vite, Int, Health, and Mana. For the other ring, we have Vite, Int, Health, and Dodge rating. For the belt, we have percentage of potion health converted to word, +1 potion slot, increased health, hybrid health. For our Squirrel Catalyst, the most important thing you want here is 6% base on the roll with a lot of int. We added Critical Strike Multiplier, Spell Critical Strike Chance, Mana, and Dodge rating. For the helm, we have Int, Vite, chance to shock on hit with lightning skills and increased health. And for the brass amulet, we have lightning damage, lightning penetration, health, and chance to shock on hit. Some of these are as low as just tier 4 or 5 items. You can definitely do better. You can gamble. A lot of these aren't even fractured. There are definitely some things that you can do to improve the build, but just to show you how viable it is right off the get-go, you have these items and you can just use Static Orb and just do immense amounts of damage. We're critting for 10 to 20k, and as you can tell, there's just I don't know, I can't count that many crits, but they're everywhere. It's just a whole Spark Nova feast going on. For the character sheet, as you can see, we're not running full resistances. We do get more while we're channeling. It jumps up to almost 50%. We have some capped fire and lightning, so we have some protection while we're channeling. But for everything else, we have some spell damage. We have almost 400% lightning damage. A lot of that's because our lightning damage is doubled for having over 300 mana, so it's a bit higher. As long as you can definitely get higher, and of course once you have lightning aegis and you get some extra lightning damage that way, you can get this much higher. And then the critical strike multiplier, which is one of your most important stats because you'll be doing all crits, so this is going to be a huge damage boost. We have 270%. Alright, let's go ahead and get into some more gameplay.